What is up, my lovely people? Welcome to a training guide from level 1 to 245. The primary goal of this guide is to give you places to go to level up as fast as possible. This will sometimes be slaughtering enemies, it will sometimes be quests, and sometimes it'll be both. In this guide, I'm going to be assuming that you know where to go to upgrade your arcane symbols, as this could be its own video, and it will be in the future, but we really don't have time to cover it here. That you're doing Monster Park every day, and that you're working on collecting gear to upgrade your damage like boss items. I won't go into things like how to unlock Damien, Lotus, gear sets, stuff like that, because these award items sometimes, but typically suck for experience. And the last is that I know that not everyone's going to agree with me on the exact levels and XP rates and what is best. These are just my suggestions, so you can absolutely go somewhere different if you prefer to. These are the areas that I have used to level up 47 of my 49 total characters to at least level 140, and 17 of them to level 200 or higher as fast as possible. Let's do it. Levels 1 through 30 will be done via the intro quests. Certain classes will have different versions of getting there, most notably the Explorer, where you can basically skip the 1 to 10 levels by skipping the text as fast as possible and go straight to Lith Harbor. Once you get to Lith Harbor with the Explorer, it levels you up to 10, where you're then teleported to the drop instructor of your choice, and then it has a super long story thing that gets you to the level 30. Other classes will have some sort of intro quest that must be completed first before you can leave the home island. Usually these quests will say required and on the list and will take you to at least 25, if not 30 to 32 or so. That required word is usually in bright red. If for any reason those quests don't do that, a place that I like to train for a few levels is the Stump areas in Perion. The layout of each room is a little bit different, but they have pretty decent spawns. If you like to experiment though, you can also go to the Surgeon Eye area in the top part of Ellinia next to the Magician Association. Levels 30 to 60 will breeze by and leave you with whiplash if you're not careful. In the 30 to 60 range, it's absolutely fastest to do the 3 to 4 themed dungeons available to you. But keep in mind that if you're playing a class with the required quest, so the red required before the quest name, you'll have to finish these all the way through before it allows you to access the themed dungeons. So you could be 32, 35 before you even get to do them. There are 4 of these, and I'll list them here. Riena Strait, Gold Beach, Ellinel Ferry Academy, and Elodin Anne's Plea for Help. Remember that these actually scale in experience up to level 59 with your level, so you definitely want to take advantage of these. My recommendation is to do at least 3 of them all the way through, as that will get you easily to level 62 to 65 or so, and it's faster to do these quests even after level 60, so that when you do start training against enemies, your skills are not all level 1 from job placing. So first up is Riena Beach. This one is basically all quests, but the quests seem to give a great amount of experience. The mob spawns are not too great. Gold Beach is also all quests. The mob spawns are maybe a bit better, but not by a whole lot. Ellinel is the one I would say to go to if you like hunting monsters. It also has a quest line that's fine for experience, but holy cow, the spawns in some of the rooms are amazing for that low of a level. In Elodin, I don't have much experience with this one. I've actually only done it twice out of 49 total characters so far. It has a quest line, but my memory tells me that the quests were extremely fetchy. The spawns in the first couple of rooms were good though. If you've done all the themed dungeons up to this point, you will likely already be close to level 70, but I understand that not everyone has the patience for this. Usually I can only stomach 3 of these before I have to do something else, hence why I don't have experience with Elodin. If you like those dungeons though, there is another one you can do at level 60 called Mushking Summons. This will get you to around 70ish and is where I recommend going to get a badge that requires a boss. If you're curious, you can click on the video that I link here and check out the badge section. However, I will not take anything for granted. If you are level 60 and just job placed, you'll want to try out those shiny new skills somewhere, and one of the best places for that is in Sleepy Wood. It's the first room to the right, it's where drakes are. This multi-level room is great, spawns are snappy, and they don't have a ton of health. You will be fighting with other people for this room, but once you find one, you're golden. A quick runner-up to this place for training is the excavation site in Perion. It has a small quest line where you can get extra boosts of experience while grinding. Before the Explorer event happened, the Stairway to the Sky 1 area used to be free game. This area was the tits when it came to leveling up from 70 to 80. but now it's almost impossible to find an empty room. Someone is almost always grinding a mule. But if you can get a room, you're guaranteed amazing spawns and great experience easily until 80 and maybe even further. So from 80 to 90, the Verne mine is a great way to gain experience while also finishing quests along the way. There's actually a stupid number of quests in this area at level 80 and they're pretty easy. Spawns are quick and you usually don't have to fight anyone for a room here. This also can be accessed from the Maple Guide. Two runner-ups for this though would be Ice Valley 2 and any of the areas in the circle that is around Ariant. There's nothing too crazy about the rooms, it's just nice to have an extra level 80 spot. In fact, a great strategy and one that I've used often is to go to Ice Valley 2 or the areas outside of Ariant right at level 80, then Verne mine at 85 to get to 90 faster. I'll explain why in just a second. So 90 to 100 is a bit of a mixed bag. For example, one of the best places to train will be Sahel 2 right outside of Megacia. However, this is one of the most competitive places for a room in the early game. If you get here at 90 like I mentioned earlier, you can actually skip this area altogether, which is going to make your grinding way more bearable because you don't have to fight people for a room. If you're 90, you can go to the authorized personnel only room, lab area C3, or any of the rooms in Megacia until 95. A lot of them are about the same in Megacia and they're flat AF. They can really be used well for classes with high mobility or mages that chain attacks together. Other classes that don't do this can absolutely still use the area, but you want to focus on the multi-tiered rooms that are a bit taller. So the 95 to 100 section, I wanted to add this because it's one of my favorites. So we go to Ancient Fairies in the Ellin Forest / Mossy Tree Forest Trail area. This area is one of my favorite well-kept secrets in Maplestory. This basically always has a 100% burning area, and rooms are very prevalent. The room is absolutely tiny as well. So before 2x experience cards, you're looking at having 4x experience for amounts of time as well. It's pretty cool. This is where I've gone for basically every single one of my characters that I've trained from 95 to 100. After you job place at level 100, you're going to want to go to Zakum. Yes, normal Zakum. This will actually give you 2 to 3 levels on its own, and if you can do this with a 2x experience potion, it can easily give you 5 to 6 levels. If you don't like killing bosses or for whatever reason don't want to go to Zakum, you can also go to Harps in Leafree instead, which is actually my next suggestion, which is where we start at 105 all the way to 115. I really don't understand why this room is so good. The EXP to health ratio is just amazing, and with the runes and possible 2x experience potions and cards, you can get levels every couple of minutes in here. Plus, there's almost always a really good burning area. It's unbelievable. The next section will be Toy Robos in Ludibrium. This is a new add to my training rotation, and I really love this room because the spawns are great even without a wild totem. And because it's off the beaten path, the burning areas are almost always up there as well. On the Maple Guide, it actually does suggest Toy Robos, but it takes you to a room where the burning area is pretty low. If you actually go one room to the left of where the Maple Guide takes you, this is the room I'm talking about. This room is especially good for a character with a vertical type attack like a paladin. This is actually where I went with my paladin, which is 211 at the time of making this video. I went from 112 to 123 in less than 30 minutes with a wild totem and 2x experience potions. Very close second is a Ghost Pirates in the Clock Tower bottom floor in Ludibrium. The spawns here aren't too good, but with a wild totem they really do shine. This room is actually probably better for the experience to health ratio than Robos, but it requires Star Force to get there. If you're okay with that, then I definitely recommend checking it out. For around the 123 to 128 range, the best enemies that I found are Moon Bunnies in Korean Folktown. Not much to say here, but holy crap, the spawns. Competition is fierce, but thankfully you're not going to be here for too long. If you don't want to come to this area because of that competition, you can feel free to stay at Ghost Pirates or Robos for just a few more levels, since we're only going to be here until about 127 or 128 anyway. So the reason we only stay there for a few levels is because the room to the left of Moon Bunnies is low-key amazing. There's usually a burning area and the room is small enough that a lot of classes can hit everything all at once. Probably 45 of my 49 characters have trained here to at least 135 and most of them to 141. If you can get a wild totem for this room with Maple reward points, you're basically set for a full 15 levels. So while the last section you can go there until 140, I wanted to make sure that you knew that there are other areas you can go to around 135 to 137-ish. The first is Kerning Tower. I usually recommend Kerning Tower over others because there's a quest line and the burning field is actually pretty decent. The spawns in some of the rooms are meh, but the lower rooms are brimming with enemies. The runner-ups to Kerning Tower for this level range are the Practice Range, Herbtown in Bellflower Valley, and Bains in the Cave of Trials 3. This one requires Star Force though. Honestly, if you don't care about the Star Force, the Bains in Cave of Trials 3 might actually be better than Kerning Tower at 137, and then once you get to around 142 to 145, you can actually move over to Kerning Tower. So from 140 to about 145, I would recommend doing the Commerci Republic. This is a recommendation simply because it has a longish quest line that's really easy. It's legitimately one of the easiest in the game. It's just really long and doesn't always tell you where to go. This quest line, along with a Get Rich Quick quest from Cassandra, is how you unlock the Commerci party quest. This party quest allows you to unlock a facial item, eye accessory, pendant, earrings, and a full level 150 armor set. Though this is admittedly not as good as the Fafnir stuff, which is also 150 that you get from the Root Abyss enemies. From 150 to 160, I recommend going to Stone Colossus. It has an interesting quest line and the enemies in the area have really great spawns, especially towards the top of the area above the Colossus head. On top of that, they also have great burning areas since most people just don't travel this far. It's also accessed via the quest notifier. Here's a picture of where it's located if you want to teleport there. Keep in mind that if you do teleport, this quest is actually started in the Leaf-Free town from Chief Tatamo, not directly in the Stone Colossus. If you want to just train, focus on the 3 rooms right above the Colossus head, and then when you're able to go inside of his stomach, those areas right before Tarantulas are also really good. Alright, so 160 to 170. So buckle up, this is one of the dead zones in the early game. There's not a ton of level content here, at least that's helpful. It gives a lot of experience, and most of the enemies at this level take 3 hits unless you've been doing the boss sets from one of my other videos. So if you have any 2x experience coupons, I would recommend using some of these in this-ish section. Personally, I usually stay at Colossus until 165, then go to the Henesys Ruins area. Here you'll find a quest line headed by Alex, and this will take you through a set of respectable quests that will give a few levels. The goal is to get to 170 where you can start the Kritias quest line, and runner-up here is going to be the Omega Sector quest line. It provides a medal and unlocks the Omni-CLN boss. The quest line story is humorous, but in the way of actual experience, it's a bit lacking. Also, right at level 165, a beginner player may find the enemies in this area of Omega Sector pretty challenging. A third option would be to go to the top parts of Kerning Tower, where you need Star Force. With a wild totem, the areas aren't too bad, and the burning areas are always going to be pretty good because most people don't venture up there. At 170, you'll want to start the Kritias questline as it provides a decent amount of experience and is where I'd recommend training for a lot of these levels. The nice thing about Kritias is that burning is typically decent and the enemies are basically the exact same but vary in color and level as you go around Kritias, so you can actually rotate as you level up. A backup questline would be the Detective Rave case notes if you like to do quests. The rooms in this area are pretty big and the spawns are decent enough. And again, because most people don't go here, the burning area is pretty good. So in this section, I personally would continue training in your favorite room in the Kritias area to about 185 or so. This way you can get a bit ahead of the quest line as well as enemy levels for the next upcoming quest lines and enemies. The Fox Valley questline at 185 is a must, as it gives chunks of experience and the quests are actually quite bearable. When you complete these missions, most of the enemies in the area are farmable as well and provide really good amounts of experience. A runner-up would be the Twilight Perion questline, as the enemies in that area are great for grinding. The quests don't give much in the way of experience percentages though, unfortunately. Another option for training would be in the Knight's Chambers in the Henesys ruins, but this is more of a last resort because these guys hit really hard. We're talking 3,000 to 7,000 damage depending on how much defense you have. Both the Fox Valley and the Twilight Perion quests are started from the quest notifier on the left. Twilight Perion is 180 and Fox Valley is 185. From 190 to 200, Swollen Stumps are a pretty good area to train in, but this is really popular so you won't see a lot of burning. The Fox Tree area is also great for training though, and any of the rooms will be fine, but I would focus on the one that takes advantage of the shape of your attacks better. Some of the rooms are better for vertical type attacks, and some are better for attacks that hit around your character model in a square. And then ranged classes can basically use either type, though the more horizontal rooms will probably be a bit better. One of the more low-key good areas from 192 or 3-ish to 199 or 200 will be the Forsaken Excavation Site 2, Excavation Site 4, and then the Spirit Zone Limbo where Manji is in Twilight Perion. Once you get to 199, you'll actually get a free level if you go to your quest notifier, click on Haven, a new home, then hold the spacebar for most of the dialogue. This will give you a full level and then some for basically free. Congratulations on finishing the Maplestory tutorial. Post 200 is where the grinding for your class will truly begin and where you can start to fine-tune your skills and damage. Remember, these are all suggestions, and if you want to veer off and do your own thing, you absolutely can. Some classes have their own unique playstyles and attack shapes, so if you can mob in a different room easier, please feel free to go there. Keep in mind that being more than 5 levels below an enemy here isn't quite as impactful as it is pre-200 because the amount of damage you do is increased as your arcane symbol increases. My recommendation is to spam every event for arcane symbols to where you have 150% damage in any room you're training in. This will allow you to one-hit enemies at your level, which will exponentially increase your training speed. So first up is 200 to 205. You'll want to first finish the Vanishing journey quests, and you'll likely still be 200 unless you actually do the quests and fill up the XP stones you get for the job placement. Each one of these gives 20% at level 200 and 201, so keep that in mind as you're training. To get to 205, I would recommend going back to Twilight Perion. Whichever room was your favorite from the last section will be probably best still, because unfortunately the enemies in Vanishing Journey are going to not be quite as efficient as Twilight Perion simply because of the arcane symbols needed to do enough damage. I personally stayed at the Ancient Golems room with Manji in it all the way until 210 on a few characters, and it wasn't bad at all. If you're in an event and can level up your arcane symbol quickly and easily, then you can go to any place in the Extinction Zone. My personal favorite was the Soulful Urdas with a wild totem since the room is pretty small and you can hit everything in the room. From 205 to 215, these levels are going to be where you really start to increase damage and arcane symbol level, since you pretty much have to do daily missions to proceed. People might disagree with me on the best place to train, but low-key I think the best place to train from 205 to 215 is going to be Armas hideout, and then the Hidden Cave, which is one room to the right. I trained my bishop to 220 in these rooms, and it was extremely easy. Since you can teleport from platform to platform, it made it extremely easy to hit everything in the room. Plus, it has a portal on the right side on 2 different levels to teleport you back to the left. If you're a mage with teleport or a class where your main mobbing skill hits around you in a square or rectangle, these 2 rooms are going to be amazing. A class with summons also could effectively use these rooms by making the rooms smaller with the said summon. It's monotonous, but it is amazing. For other classes, these rooms are still good, but not quite as effective simply because the platform situation is ideal. I was able to train here with my paladin though without any drop off just by staying on the ground and ignoring the top platforms. As the first alternative, if you try this room and hate it, you can go a couple rooms to the left and find the best layout for your class in the Cave of Repose, where Tranquil and Lantern Urda spawn. As a second alternative, you can go to Reverse City and go to your favorite layout of the Montos or Urda Rats while accumulating arcane symbols. These rooms don't have a lot of competition like the T-Boys Research Train 1 room does. And finally, since you know I love data, and I know you guys do too, I went ahead and compared a bunch of rooms for you so that you could make sure I'm not lying to you. Here's the data I found by comparing Armas Hideout, Hidden Cave, my favorite Tranquil Urda room, and then an Urda Rat room. My arcane symbol was at 150% damage for each one. Each area that I tested, I killed one champion, and I activated Starlight Symphony once to make sure it was an equal test. The armor room and the room to the right of that also had a 100% burning area. The other two did not. And here is what I found. For this level range, you'll want to make sure to have Yum Yum Village done, because this will allow you to go to the Hidden Fungos Forest. This has cum spiders and squirrel nons that are level 220. The reason I like this room so much is because the room is tiny, it's typically got a 100% burning area, and with a wild totem, most classes can hit the entire room extremely easy. The only downside is the music in this room sucks, so get Spotify going. I would actually stay in this room until 225, and that's actually what I did with my Pathfinder, maybe even 230, but that's totally up to you. If you find your arcane symbol is not quite high enough, a really good room in Choo Choo Island is Dealey Bobber Forest 1. This room is not too big, it's kind of big, but not too big. Most classes can hit everything in this room. This room has a ton of competition though, and you'll be hard pressed to find a burning area because of it. If you're level 220 and have reached this area for the first time, big congratulations to you. The majority of players don't reach this point, let alone get past this point. You might be struggling with arcane symbols at this point, and I definitely was. And if that's the case, I would say go back to one of the areas I mentioned before, possibly Cumpiters, which is my personal favorite, or something else, even maybe before that, as long as it's within 20 levels of your level. If you aren't struggling, Outlaw Street 1, 2, and 3 are all really good as the platforms are really close together. And in my experience, you can usually get a level 3 to 5, so 30 to 50% burning area. When I arrived at Lock Lane, my experience is that I could actually one-hit the enemies here despite being right at 220. I hope that that's the case for you too. By this point, the places you train are going to be pretty dependent on your arcane symbol level, the level of your nodes, your damage range, and the shapes of your attack skills. A lot of the rooms at this point are pretty wide or tall, so you're going to want to pick something that fits your class and that balances experience with what you can one hit, or maybe two. So for example, an extremely popular room at this level is Arcana Lower Path 1. The room is small, spawns are decent, and you can kill enemies fast, but because of this, you're never going to see a burning field because it's just so popular. So instead of giving you a blanket recommendation to go here, I'm going to give you some rooms that you should check out to see if they fit your class better. For example, Volatile and Toxic Forest 2 is shaped absolutely horrendously as a room. However, it has a 100% burning area most times because, well, of the aforementioned horrible shape. So if you're a class with a great up jump or have the grapple hook, you might be able to use this room very effectively. And the same goes for Between Frost and Thunder 1 for very similar reasons. And then remember, you can always go back to previous training spots up to 20 levels above them. From 230 to 235, the same advice is going to take place, but the rooms, if you go to Morass, are just massive. The red and blue shadow rooms are extremely popular, but again, you're not going to see any burning areas because of that. Honestly, I never trained in Morass at all. From 230 to 235, I trained in the various Arcana areas and the Cumpiter room actually. I would recommend that you do the same, but again, if you prefer to train in Morass, you definitely can. At this point, you've trained like crazy and made it further than most players. As long as you can one-hit enemies close to your level, any room that has a burning area will be perfectly fine. The Maple Guide says to train at Ariant and Aranya, but again, this is super popular, so you're never going to get a burning area. So to make sure I give you something that's actually helpful, I recommend that you train at mirror touched C, 5, and 7. Those are the keepers of light and keepers of darkness. So typically the burning field is a little bit higher. When I trained, I actually never really trained in the area that Maple Guide told me to train at. I always would train about 5 to 10 levels below my level. I really enjoyed the Gunpowder Room all the way till 235, and then I went from there. $240 to $245. So if you got here, you are in the upper echelon players at this point. From $240 to $245, I definitely would recommend going to Celis. This is where I trained. I'm $242 currently, but hopefully I'll be $245 by the end of August. This area is just so nice visually, and the music is pretty decent too. Star Swallowing C1 is the most popular area, so it's the first room on the map on the whale. But here are some of my side recommendations if you don't want to fight other people for a room with no burning area. Plunging Depths 1. So this has a darker aesthetic, the room is small, a nice burning area, and the enemies are really close together. And I mentioned that darker aesthetic because in Star Swallowing C1, it's literally white and bright blue, and if you train there, you're likely going to get a massive headache. So, and I can say that from experience because I got a massive headache when I was trained there a couple of times. So I've started training in Plunging Depths 1 and then also Star Swallowing C4. Now that one is also bright, but if you don't have any problems with the brightness, then Star Swallowing C1 or 4 would be fine. But if you're like me and you had a little bit of, headaches from that room, Plunging Depths 1 is an amazing room as well. Phew guys, thank you so much for watching if you made it this far, and congrats on getting to 245. I wanted to go ahead and make another long form video where I gave you my opinions on where you could train without all the extra extraneous information. Thank you guys so much for watching, and once again, I'll see you guys in the next video.